West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
This mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
Hey, what do you say? It's Monday morning. Hope you had a great weekend. Are ready to tackle the big stories of the week starting this Monday morning, July 21. The Bill Press Show booming out to you live from our nation's capital on to Free Speech TV nationwide and our video stream, TawkrTV, TAWKRTV worldwide. Good to have you with us this morning, and there's lots to talk about. Yes, indeed. Starting, of course, in Gaza, where the worst day yet on the Gaza Strip and the 13th day of the war between Israel and Hamas. 13 Israeli soldiers killed and 60-some Palestinians killed, including many, many children. No sign that the fighting is going to let up, but Secretary of State John Kerry is on his way to Cairo to try to broker a ceasefire, if only both sides would cooperate. Meanwhile, more and more evidence that the missile that brought down that Malaysian airliner with 298 people on board was fired by Ukrainian separatists from their territory using an SA-11 missile system provided them by Russia, and the separatists trained to use it by the Russian military. Meanwhile, the world is disgusted with the callous disregard for the bodies shown by the Ukrainian separatists. They are still, some of them still rotting in the fields, others stacked on trucks and then taken to and now lying stacked in railway cars at some remote train station. And today, President Obama will sign an executive order in the East Room of the White House this morning, banning federal contractors from discriminating against employees based on their sexual orientation. A great move on the part of the president. Now Congress should act to make that the same for all contractors. All of that we'll be talking about and taking your calls at 866-55-PRESS this Monday morning. Good to have you on board.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Elizabeth Warren knocks him dead at the Netroots conference. Now, will she run for president? Hey, what do you say? Good morning, everybody. So good to see you today. You're looking good on a Monday. Monday, July 21. Here we are in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., where it's actually kind of pleasant these days, huh? We haven't had the horrible summer temperatures and humidity that we normally have here in Washington, D.C. It's probably still coming, but it's very pleasant where you are. I hope it's great where you are as well, and that you enjoyed a wonderful, relaxing weekend. We're able to kick back, recharge your batteries, and ready to start off a whole new week with us right here on the Bill Press Show, coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station. You are very fortunate to have one. Give it your full support, as well as the sponsors that you hear advertising on the program. We are happy to be here with you. For those of you who don't have a progressive talk station near you, but still want to listen in on the radio, TuneIn app is how you do it. Download it. Tune in. It's free, and there we are on the Progressive Voices channel of the TuneIn app. And we're happy to see so many of you watching on Free Speech TV. Thank you for joining us. You got a satellite dish. You know where to find us on DirecTV. And worldwide, there we are on our video stream at TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Big audience in Denmark lately. So, yeah, we're very, very happy to be there
Huge in Denmark.
Mm-hmm. I think a field trip to Denmark might be called for. Huh?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. How about it? Yeah. Well, we made it through the weekend, and the team is all back here this morning. Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy. Hello, hello.
Hey, good morning.
Ready to go?
We're here.
And Alicia Cruz got the phones covered. 866-55-PRESS. You know the ticket. That's how you give her a call. And Cyprian Bolding has us looking good on the video stream on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV. I got to tell you, before we get to all the news of the day, big event over the weekend for me. Mm-hmm. I went to see the longest movie of my life.
Well, what was it, an hour and 45 minutes?
For me, that's a long movie.
Yeah.
This movie was 2 hours and 45 minutes. But I have to tell you, it's one of the best movies I've ever seen. Everybody, you got to go out and see it. Boyhood.
Yeah.
It opened this weekend, and we were there in a packed theater. Carol and I with a couple of friends Saturday night at the East Street Theater here in Washington. It's an incredible movie. It's a story, I'm sure maybe you've read about it, but this filmmaker, Richard Linklater, he starts filming this little kid. He's not an actor, just a little kid when he's like 5 years old. And then he follows his life for the next 12 years. And
that's incredible.
And every year he will film another segment. And another segment. And the kid just gets, of course, older and older and older and grows up and graduates from high school. And it's a wonderful, wonderful following the real life of this kid.
That's wild.
With all the family crises that happen.
Sure.
And then there's professionals like Ethan Hawke, who plays the father, who's the star in every one of Linklater's movies, is incredible. And Patricia Arquette plays the mother. Phenomenal job. Yeah. So there are professional actors who also did this for 12 years.
That's amazing. That you could pull off a project of that scale.
It's revolutionary.
Like it is. Totally. It's never been a movie like it. And I'm telling you, seriously, if I see a movie's 2 hours, I think twice about going. And I just happened to check because we were going out to dinner afterwards, right? Okay, I'm trying to figure out what time to make a dinner res for. So I checked to see how long the movie is. I never do that usually. And I saw 2 hours and 45 minutes. I called everybody up and said, do you realize how long this damn movie is? But made it through without, it was just like that. I could have watched another hour.
Wow, that says a lot.
Did not fall asleep, didn't have to get up.
I have seen you, like, movies that you really want to see.
Oh, no.
And you hear that they're close to 3 hours, you won't go.
No. I have a serious case of ADD when it comes to movies and museums, by the way.
Good. I really
1
wanna
hour
see it.
museum.
That's it, huh?
I zone out.
Come on.
1 hour.
You need more than an hour to get
No.
through some museums?
Not me.
Just come back tomorrow.
Yeah. But the point is, Boyhood is a wonderful, wonderful movie, and I just can't recommend it enough. So
I've heard nothing but great things.
And magnificently filmed. The filming in it's just great.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was my weekend. How was yours?
It was good.
Yeah. All right.
It was good. Yeah.
And President Obama had a little fun over the weekend just before he went off to Camp David. There were all these. I went in the briefing room the other day, and there were all these little kids sitting in the chairs, and I said, "Get out of here! You know, what are you doing?" They were there for the first lady's state dinner. She had a state dinner for kids, and the president stopped by, and he did say he wants them all to eat well, but at the same time, once in a while, they can have a little fun.
It's not like our family, including me, don't have some snacks once in a while that.
Yeah, once in a while they go for snacks, and he made it very clear his favorite snack.
My big thing, chips and guacamole.
Oh.
Like basically, if there's a bowl of good chips and guacamole,
He loses it.
I lose my mind. I lose my mind.
Now, wait till he tries Carol Press.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a real
Carol
question.
Press's award-winning guacamole.
guac.
Yeah, then,
man.
then he'll really lose his mind. Okay, man, with so much happening on the world front, pardon me, we need Joe Cirincione, and we'll have him a little bit later in the program today.
Especially today.
If we ever needed him, it's today. We'll also be checking it with the hotline as we do every Monday morning. Reporters along from Buzzfeed and others, and we're going to take a look at cars, especially that new Tesla that's getting a lot of buzz today. All of that coming up, but first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. When will your baby show up? That is a question that many couples that are expecting try and plan around. You'd be given a due date, right? Well, there's some new data from the Brookings Institute at whentoexpect.com about when babies actually show up. Turns out 4.4% actually show up on the actual due date. That's how small the number is.
Yeah.
Most likely.
I'm not surprised at that.
No, I mean if you've ever been through that, you know that it's hardly scientific on that date. The most likely time that babies show up, 7 days early is the most likely time that a child will show up. And the second and third children, if you make it that far, typically show up even earlier than that. It just gets earlier and earlier the more that you have kids. So.
Yeah, but our experience was that the first one always shows up late.
We had the same experience.
Always late.
And then our second one showed up early.
That same.
Yeah, so there you go. Ocala, Florida has approved an ordinance to tighten the belt, so to speak, on people walking around with sagging pants.
Good.
People living in Ocala, Florida, if you're on the sidewalk or in a city-owned property like a park or a pool, violators can pay $500 or even face jail time of up to 6 months. Again, the
problem is they're mainly kids that wear those.
There
pants.
are mainly kids who wear these jeans or pants that sag way down, but they're saying the way that they're getting into this, they're saying if you're on city-owned property, so you could do this.
But how old? How old could you get a $500 fine if you're 12?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. I don't see I don't see an age on this story, but I'll see if I can find it.
Because they're not going to be finding kids, and the ones I see wearing it are like, middle school or high school kids.
Yeah, middle school, high school kids.
Some young adults, but it's just tasteless. It's stupid. It's
pointless.
Totally pointless. Yeah. Cover your butt.
Now you have to pay the price if you don't. In Ocala, Florida. And congratulations to Rory McIlroy. He won the British Open yesterday. Got a little too close for comfort. He started out 7 strokes up.
Yeah.
And
he ended up 2 strokes up.
He ended up 2 strokes up. But it was I'll put it this way. When you start 7 strokes up and you end up 2 strokes, you got a little hairy for him. Here's the interesting story, I think.
Well, the interesting story is he's 25 years old.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
that's just won his 3rd title.
That's a big deal. Well, listen to this. So when he was 15 years old, Rory McIlroy's dad and some friends
Yep.
put down a bet.
Yep.
Said, my son will win the British Open in the next 10 years. So this was the last chance for him to do it.
Before he's 26.
Before he's 26. So
Wow, that's prophetic.
the bet paid off. McIlroy, his father, and his friends put down bets between 400 and 100 pounds each. That bet then paid off £200,000, or about $85,000 per person yesterday. So not only did Rory win,
200,000 pounds is about almost $400,000.
yeah,
Wow.
they split it up among the friends. So that's not only did Rory win, his dad won too.
Yeah, that is a great story. Great story. All right. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed. We start off today where we were started on Friday. We know more now, and the situation is just worse and worse and looks grim, more and more grim in the eastern Ukraine. Starting with the facts, it's very, very clear right now. Friday we talked. Doesn't it look like, and could anybody deny that the separatists were behind the downing of that Malaysian Airlines? Now we know. You may have seen the same that video that I saw. The United States can track this, and they can track that missile. They've got the image of the missile hitting the plane, and they can track it right back to where it came from. And indeed, it came from eastern Ukraine, territory controlled by the Ukrainian separatists. It came from an SA-11 missile launcher, which was given to them by the Russian military just a week or so ago. They were obviously trained or not trained on how to use it by the Russian military. It's believed that there might have even been some members of the Russian military with that crew when they fired it. And Vladimir Putin's fingerprints are all over this. He has continued to provide them arms and training support. He's continued to provide just 150 some military vehicles rolling into East Ukraine in the last week, gifts of the Russian army to the Ukrainian separatists. And obviously they made a big mistake with this. President Obama, I was there in the White House Friday when the president came in with a special statement on the situation in the Ukraine. First of all, talking about what an outrage it was, the shooting down of this plane.
Nearly 300 innocent lives were taken. Men, women, children, infants who had nothing to do with the crisis in Ukraine. Their deaths are an outrage of unspeakable proportions.
And the president said this was brought down with the most sophisticated of equipment with the separatists would never have had on their own or known how to use on their own.
There are only certain types of anti-aircraft missiles that can reach up 30,000 feet and shoot down a passenger jet. We have increasing confidence that it came from areas controlled by the separatists.
And John Kerry appeared on all 5 Sunday morning shows yesterday, and he pointed the finger directly at Vladimir Putin and his agents inside the Ukraine, and particularly the horrible way that they've been treating or not even caring about the bodies strewn all over this field.
Drunken separatists are stacking bodies into the back of trucks, removing materials from the site.
And again, John Kerry says, no doubt, who's responsible?
Russia has armed the separatists. Russia has supported the separatists. Russia has trained the separatists. Russia continues to refuse to call publicly for the separatists to engage in behavior that would lend itself to a resolution of this issue.
It is Russia, Russia, Russia. It is Putin, Putin, Putin. He is the guy. He's the evil man in this whole scenario. And the question now is, now that we know the facts, now that we know who's responsible, what are we going to do about it? Add to that fact that still there is no investigation begun because the separatists will not allow international experts at the scene. 2, the callous disregard that they've shown for the bodies, leaving those bodies lying in the field for up to 72 hours. Remains of the bodies, so they picked up, I don't know, maybe 200 bodies, and they threw them. Do you see that they were throwing them in this truck like logs, and then taking them to this remote train station where they still sit in what are so-called refrigerated cars.
Yeah.
I really wonder about that. Still lie there in these cars. But the remains of bodies haven't been gathered because they don't have people who are expert in this stuff, and they haven't allowed people to the site. It's just disgusting. It's just absolutely just. I mean, no wonder all world opinion has reacted in shock and outrage at these separatists. And I guess our question this morning, let's talk about this, 866-55-PRESS, is what is the world now united going to do about this? You can't just walk away from it. Man, I'd say anything goes other than going to war against Russia. But as some of you suggested on Friday, I'd like to see the UN General Assembly, if not the Security Council, condemn this action, condemn Russia for supporting and making this action possible. I would throw Vladimir Putin out of the G8 and about the G20, about any of these other international bodies where he shows up at these meetings. Just say, man, you're no longer wanted. We don't want anything to do with you. And certainly I would hope that Europe now would join the United States and stand up, Germany and UK and France, and slap some really strong sanctions against Russia, join the United States in doing so, and maybe then Vladimir Putin would stop, would call off the dogs and stop providing arms and weaponry to the Ukrainian separatists. What do you think we can do about it? 866-55-PRESS. What should we do about it? 866-55-77-377.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university. And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 27 minutes after the hour, the world reacts in outrage to the actions of the Ukrainian separatists shooting down the plane and then not refusing to let inspectors or emergency workers in to retrieve the remains or to find out what happened to that jet for sure. You know why? They don't want the world to know. They don't want us to know. They're lying about the fact that they had one of these sophisticated pieces of equipment, which they have since, by the way, driven back into Russia.
Yeah.
Right. Think they can get away with it. Peter?
We are on Twitter at BP Show, where Mama for Obama weighs in, says, remember when John McCain wanted President Obama to arm the rebels in Syria? Once again, I am grateful that Barack Obama is president, not John McCain.
A cool head is what we need right now. Charles out in Santa Fe. Hey, Charles, what's up?
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, I've heard, and it is an outrageous act. And, I don't know what to say. Lots of sanctions to Russia. They deserve it.
Yeah, more sanctions, huh?
Definitely deserve it. And why would they stack them up like that?
No.
What?
No. I know. It defies belief that there could be people so crude and so uncaring and so, dumb, I guess, on the planet today. But there they are, and they're Putin's people.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look, your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live. You said 5, right? 5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Minutes after the hour, we've been talking about the situation, the latest evidence, which really makes it very, very clear who was responsible for the downing of that Malaysian Airlines jet, and who the very same people who are now responsible for the fact that there is still no investigation underway, and that the bodies have been treated in such a cavalier and inhumane fashion. Body remains still lying in that field in the Ukraine now, 4 or 5 days later. Just totally shocking and inhumane and unacceptable.
And I realize Russia's a big place, right? But this is the country that had the Winter Olympics. This is the company that has the World Cup next time around. They want to be big players on the international front. And they can't. I mean,
they want to be treated with respect. They want to be taken seriously. No,
exactly.
no. And Putin,
really hard to take them seriously.
Putin really comes across now as the KGB agent he has always been, I guess, and remains. And the fact that Putin is still the only response so far, showing no remorse at all for what happened. his only response so far is to blame the government of Ukraine in Kiev for somehow creating this problem. He ought to just, as Dianne Feinstein said yesterday, man up, Vlad, man up. Paul is out in Lucerne, California. Hello, Paul. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. I don't agree with what the Russians are doing, but I do understand why they're doing it. Professor Stephen Cohen talked about how the eastern part of the Ukraine is really key to the Russian industrial military complex. It makes key parts for their air-to-air missiles and spare parts for their airplanes and stuff like that. They're not going to give that up. And the Russians have made agreements with the United States and NATO not to adopt the former Russian bloc countries into NATO, and they have. So the Russians have pretty much drawn a line in the sand, and it's Ukraine. And we have to talk to them.
Paul, there's only one problem with that, with your theory. Ukraine is an independent country, okay? Pardon me. And it's been so since the breakup of the Soviet Union. And you can't just walk into another country, no matter who you are, and take them over. And the other thing is, that's fine. What you say, I'll take your word for it, is that they're manufacturing important aircraft parts or whatever that the Russian military needs. Yeah, okay. Just because they're making products that you are buying in a neighboring country, again, doesn't mean you can take over the damn country. That's what Putin is trying to do. He is in effect invading a neighboring country and taking it over, and that's a violation of everything that we stand for, international law. So, no, what you say may be right. Why Russia's doing it doesn't make it the right thing to do, and doesn't make it something that we ought to tolerate. I mean, by that logic, you know what? We get some good stuff out of Canada, parts of Canada there. We ought to just take over.
Take it over.
We import some agricultural products and all, so let's just take it over. Or Mexico.
Yeah.
Just take it over.
Right.
By the way, there's one related issue which I just wanted to touch on, because there have been several stories about this over the weekend too. And that is whether or not President Obama, with everything going on, okay, here's the question. With everything going on in Gaza, which we haven't even gotten to talk about yet, we'll talk about certainly in the next hour with Joe Cirincione, with the war getting worse in Gaza, and Hamas digging in more than I thought they were going to be able to, and the Israeli army having a tougher time than they thought they were going to have. I mean, there's a quote in the paper this morning I saw where one of the Israeli generals says, boy, those Hamas fighters are better than we thought they were. Doom. With the worst day yet in Gaza yesterday, where 13 Israeli soldiers were killed, some 60 Palestinians, including several children, were killed. And it doesn't look like any solution there. So with all of that going on, and with this situation in the Ukraine, should President Obama adjust his schedule accordingly and maybe not play so much golf and maybe not do so many fundraisers? We saw what happened on Thursday. The president had this phone call with Vladimir Putin, where he found out that a jet had been shot down, didn't know the details, over the Ukraine. The president went on with his schedule, which was go up to Wilmington, Delaware, go out to the charcoal pit for burgers and a shake, and got his picture taken, hugging babies at the diner and everything. And then he went off and gave a speech on the on rebuilding our bridges there in Wilmington, Delaware, and the whole Infrastructure Highway Trust Fund message of the week. And then went up to New York for a couple of fundraisers in New York City. Friday, I was at in the briefing room, where he came in and gave a very somber report on what was happening in the Ukraine. Then he popped into the East Room, where the First Lady had a bunch of kids there for their so-called state dinner for kids. And he talked about how much he loved guacamole and chips and was yucking it up with the kids. Over the weekend, he went up to Camp David, came back early on Sunday, and played 18 holes of golf. So, look, the guy is always president. No matter where he is, he's in touch with what's going on in the world. But sometime you got to admit the images of a president eating a burger and having a shake while you also on the split screen have bodies lying in a field in eastern Ukraine is a little jarring. And I'm not saying Obama's done wrong yet, but I think they got to be a little more. I do think they got to be careful, a little more careful at the White House with his schedule, because those images, they send a strong message. And look, I'm just trying to be fair here, because when George Bush on Hurricane Katrina, they knew the storm was coming, and Bush was out west. Remember, he was on the ranch and he was doing some political stuff, going to some political events out in the west. There was that picture of Bush strumming his guitar.
Yeah.
Right? While Katrina was bearing down on New Orleans. And at the time, all of us said, what is he doing? Why isn't he on the job? Why isn't he back here at the White House? Why isn't if we criticize Bush at that time, I think we got to be just as tough on President Obama right now. And I what gets me, the fundraisers are the things that I think maybe rub people the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because if the people are going to give the money, they're going to give the money anyhow.
Yeah.
If those rich Americans, good Democrats who are willing to put out $32,000 or whatever to have dinner with the president, and then there's a war in the Ukraine or war in Gaza, and the president says, you know what, things are so rough right now on the world front that I have to stay at the White House and stay on top of this. Do you think they're really going to say, screw you, then I'm taking my money back? No.
I would hope not. Yeah.
No. So I think it's just a little jarring. It's got to be a little more careful on that. You'll see some stories about that. And I hope the White House is not being too cavalier about saying we're going to do whatever the hell we want. We don't care what the headlines are. Susan has a quick comment from Wooster, Ohio. Hey, Susan, what do you think?
Hey, yeah. You were commenting about Obama and
the schedule,
playing golf, etc.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what about all of those years that we were in Iraq? Bush went about his merry way. He did exactly what he wanted to do. He took vacations. He did whatever. We were directly involved in that war.
Yeah, no, Susan, you were right. And I guess the point I'm making is I was dumping all over Bush at the time for doing that. I mean, he took more vacation, I think, than any modern president. You know, he'd go off to Crawford, wasn't it?
Crawford, yeah.
Crawford, Texas,
Crawford.
for a month at a time. Yeah. So
and then
go ahead.
He looked into those Putin-esque guys and
and saw his soul, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he found his soul. And
yeah, I bet he regrets that statement. I have to tell you that. Thanks, Susan. Good to hear from you. John from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hey, John.
Hi there. I take issue with the comment about Obama, going on as if Americans were not being killed in Israel. Wait a second, they're not. Or Americans not being killed in the Ukraine. Wait a second, they're not. They were actually killed in Katrina. People died in Katrina. That was here.
Yeah.
These things are on continents that are, Israel is an ally and all that neat stuff. And gosh, why hasn't Obama solved a problem that's been going on for years and years and years and years that no other president has been able to solve? Oh, wait a second. He's got a really cooperative Congress. That might have a lot to do with... Oh, no, they have nothing to do with Israel.
Listen, John, everything you say is true, but at the same time, I'm telling you, the images that come out of the White House do count for something. And when the American public and the world public see it's the old split screen problem. That's what we're talking about. You see on one side of the screen children being killed in Gaza. They may not be American kids. They're children being killed in Gaza or bodies lying in a field in Ukraine. And the other side, you see the president yucking it up at a burger place in Wilmington, Delaware. It's jarring. And you got to be, all I'm saying is I think the White House has to be more sensitive to the public image at a time of international crisis.
I don't think you're saying that anything that President Obama has done has been as bad as what George Bush did. Or that he is on the job less than George Bush was.
Not at all.
That's not what I'm hearing. But
I also didn't say Americans were being killed in Gaza,
Right.
or there was one American on the plane.
Right.
Out of 298. No.
But look, optics is a big part of politics.
Optics is exactly.
It's a very, very big part of politics. Like it or not, unfair or fair, it's just how it goes.
In this television age, it is a big part of politics, and you just got to be a little more careful, I would suggest. And I know this is one of my character faults. But if I criticize George Bush for doing something, then I feel it's important to criticize President Obama if he's doing the same thing. That's
crazy, you.
I know. Like it or not, that's the way I am. Hey, we'll be back with Scott Bland from the Hotline.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, the president of full plate indeed, trying to deal with immigration and getting his supplemental request to Congress, and at the same time trying to deal with a war in the Middle East and the downing of a commercial airliner in the eastern Ukraine, and Vladimir Putin refusing to do anything about it. It's enough to keep a man up at night. Not only President Obama, but Scott Bland, who covers all of this as the executive editor of the National Journal's Hotline. Good morning, Scott. Good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so where do we start, man? I got to tell you, this is why they pay him the big bucks, I guess. So the president sort of limited options on what he can do about eastern Ukraine, Scott, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ukraine's been a difficult issue for months now, and I think that's one of the reasons you've seen him and Speaker Boehner, by the way, in his public comments, being so cautious about what they say about what's going on in Ukraine. It seems like they're really waiting to have kind of ironclad data and a really good idea of what happened and now what's going on before before really speaking out.
Do you think this is enough to get European nations to jump on board with some tough sanctions against Russia?
Oh gosh, the kind of political economy isn't my precise area of expertise, but this seems like a pretty enormous. I mean, I saw something the other day about saying that about the same proportion of Dutch citizens died in this plane crash as American citizens in 9/11. I mean, this is a really big deal for the Dutch and their neighbors and kind of all of Europe right now, thinking about the safety of their airlines and their citizens. And so I would imagine that they'll be prepared to take some pretty hefty action regarding this. But again, I imagine it also might depend on how long it takes to really bring everything together on this to have something to go on.
The other issue, and we were just talking a little bit about, I'm sure you saw Michael Shear's article in the New York Times yesterday about the optics of the president playing golf while this is happening, or going out for burgers, while this is all going on. Risk, maybe, is he running the risk of letting people say, hey, he obviously is not on top of things or doesn't care by not adjusting his schedule?
Sure, and this is this particular issue has been a problem for President Obama before, and it's been a problem for other presidents before. This question of kind of other events or fundraising stuff has been a big issue that Republicans have been hammering President Obama on lately, or vacations that President Obama, and before him President Bush, and before him President Clinton. It definitely can become an optical problem at some point. I mean, the fact of the matter is, and I've written about this before, the presidency travels with the president at this point. In terms of secure communications and everything like that. But in terms of the title of that New York Times story was "At Risk of Looking Bad," and I think people who don't have their jobs travel with them when they go on vacation, or when they, the idea of going to a fundraiser or something. I can see how that would end up looking bad. I mean, the fact of the matter is that at the end of the day, the presidency does travel with the president. I don't think he's ever really off the clock, which I think is one of the reasons why his hair has gone so gray. But sure, in terms of optics, it's an issue.
The optics are important, and the White House has to take that into consideration. Hey, Scott, just short on time this morning. Sorry about that, but good to have you with us, and we'll talk to you again next week. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you very much.
Scott Bland with the Hotline at the National Journal, nationaljournal.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan. Thank you. And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Hey, more about Gaza and the Ukraine with Joe Cirincione in the next hour. Then Rebecca Berg joins us to talk about Chris Christie on the road.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, what do you say? It's Monday morning. Hope you had a great weekend. Are ready to tackle the big stories of the week starting this Monday morning, July 21. The Bill Press Show booming out to you live from our nation's capital on to Free Speech TV nationwide and our video stream, TawkrTV, TawkrTV worldwide. Good to have you with us this morning, and there's lots to talk about. Yes, indeed. Starting, of course, in Gaza, where the worst day yet on the Gaza Strip and the 13th day of the war between Israel and Hamas. 13 Israeli soldiers killed and 60-some Palestinians killed, including many, many children. No sign that the fighting is going to let up, but Secretary of State John Kerry is on his way to Cairo to try to broker a ceasefire, if only both sides would cooperate. Meanwhile, more and more evidence that the missile that brought down that Malaysian airliner with 298 people on board was fired by Ukrainian separatists from their territory using an SA-11 missile system provided them by Russia, and the separatists trained to use it by the Russian military. Meanwhile, the world is disgusted with the callous disregard for the bodies shown by the Ukrainian separatists. They are still, some of them still rotting in the fields, others stacked on trucks and then taken to and now lying stacked in railway cars at some remote train station. And today, President Obama will sign an executive order in the East Room of the White House this morning, banning federal contractors from discriminating against employees based on their sexual orientation. A great move on the part of the president. Now Congress should act to make that the same for all contractors. All of that we'll be talking about and taking your calls at 866-55-PRESS this Monday morning. Good to have you on board.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
broadcasting around the nation on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Elizabeth Warren knocks them dead at Netroots, and Chris Christie feels the love in Iowa. We'll hear all about it this hour. Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, July 21. Great to see you today. The Bill Press Show coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and our studio here on Capitol Hill. Right in the heart of the action, such as there is any action in Washington, D.C. these days. And booming out to you on your local progressive talk radio station nationwide. Also there with you on the TuneIn app. If you don't have a progressive radio station where you live, download the app TuneIn. It's free, and check us on the Progressive Voices channel. And also, good to see all of you on Free Speech TV this morning and on our worldwide video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Remember, it's a two-way street. Our job to tell you what's going on, your job to tell us what you think about it, what it means to you and your family, your community. You can do so by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS, or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, or on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. So you can't escape us, is basically what I'm saying. We're everywhere.
We're like a virus. Like a plague.
I'm not sure I like that analogy. We're just like the air. You just have to breathe it in wherever you are. Okay. Peter Ogburn, aforementioned here. His mic is always on, so he never shuts up. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Hey, good morning.
Morning team. Alicia Cruz here, filling out the team with ready to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And for those of you on the video stream, you particularly appreciate the work of, as we all do, of Cyprian Bolding, our videographer on the job. To help us through the news of the day, particularly the political news of the day, Rebecca Berg, political correspondent with the Washington Examiner, joining us in studio early this Monday morning. Hello,
Very
Rebecca.
Early, but never too early for you guys. Good morning, Bill.
Well, thank you. Yeah, coming off the weekend.
Yeah.
Jumping right into it.
Hell, I almost didn't come in today. So
don't you think about it. Big news on the sports front yesterday. We have a new star in the golf world, right? Tiger didn't look so good.
Tiger looked terrible. Holy
He
cow.
really did. But the next generation, led by Rory McIlroy, Northern Ireland, I think, isn't he?
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know for a fact, but let's say yes.
But winning the British Open yesterday, and very, very proud of doing so.
I'm immensely proud of myself. I'm, to sit here at 25 years of age and win my third major championship and be 3/4 of the way to the career Grand Slam. It's, I never dreamed of being at this point in my career so quickly.
Yeah, 25 years old. He's won 3 out of 4.
This is the guy to watch now, officially.
Well, I'll say.
Officially.
Yeah.
And everybody was watching Tiger, and then it was sort of Phil Mickelson, but this is the guy now. This is golf's guy.
And he blew up at the U.S. Open, I'm pretty sure, right?
He also, maybe not last year, but the year before, I forget, where he just completely imploded at the Masters, remember?
Oh, that's what I was thinking, the Masters, yeah. But boy, and you mentioned earlier the story about the big winner yesterday was not Rory, it was his father. His father actually bet when he was 15, I think, right?
He had won a couple of amateur tournaments.
And he said, so he and his friends got together, placed a bet with some bookie in England, saying by the time he was 26, his son would have won the British Open.
You're kidding.
And he won
cashed it in.
About $400,000 yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a decent bet.
His father had confidence in his son.
Good return on your investment.
And he told him, you'd better win that damn tournament or else.
Exactly. I'll disown you at the age of 25.
How about it? Yeah. So Rebecca Berg here with us. We'll cover the political waterfront here in the first half hour. And then Joe Cirincione from the Ploughshares Fund joins us to talk Gaza and other international issues. Top of the next hour, we're going to talk cars, particularly the new Tesla, with the president of the Washington Automotive Press Association. But first,
This
what's going
is
on?
the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Yesterday was the 45th anniversary of the lunar landing, and so to commemorate that, Buzz Aldrin wrote a piece for CNN, said that we need to recapture that imagination and not only make another trip to the moon, but put a man on Mars.
Absolutely.
Put a man on Mars.
Yeah.
He said we should be looking to colonize Mars and make more trips out there. He's clearly not letting up in his old
A man or woman on Mars.
Good point.
Yes.
Good point.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Is Hillary Clinton gunning for that too?
Yes, exactly.
After 8 years in the White House.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
No end to her ambition.
New York State says it is okay to spank your children. This comes after Suffolk County Family Court had ruled that a man who spanked his 8-year-old boy was excessive corporal punishment. An appellate court at the end of last week said actually it's okay. It was, quote, a reasonable use of force. So spanking is okay in the state of New York.
That's a little troubling. I hope they put some guidelines on it.
I'm amazed, by the way, at the amount of people that I run across who still believe in the whole spanking thing.
Yeah.
A lot of parents still do it.
Well, for the court to say it's like green light.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
And Southfield, Michigan's Sadie Bell, she's 58 years old. She was having an affair on her husband. She was having an affair with this man, and when they had one of their rendezvous one afternoon, she was very upset with his performance. She accused the guy that she was having an affair with of cheating on her with someone else, so she shot him.
No way.
She shot him over bad sex. Apparently that's not okay to do. She's in a little bit of trouble there in Southfield, Michigan.
What state is this? Michigan?
Michigan.
I think it's against the law to shoot someone for bad sex.
For bad sex. As of now.
But not in New York.
But not in New York. I'd say it's okay. They might overturn it.
All right. Well, we thank you, Peter. God, how could we get through
What would you do without me?
Exactly. How could we get through the day without knowing those stories?
The news you need.
That's it.
Yeah, right.
Happy to help.
So, Rebecca, you have been busy on the road with two superstars last week.
Yes.
First, let's start in Iowa. Chris Christie, he's from New Jersey. What was he doing in Iowa?
I guess he just got lost, took a wrong turn in Illinois, ended up in Iowa, figured he might as well stay and meet some people.
Yeah.
His official excuse was that he was there to raise money for Governor Terry Branstad running for re-election, the Republican governor in Iowa. And of course, Chris Christie is the head of the Republican Governors Association.
Right,
but everyone knows that's just an excuse. No one is fooled by Chris Christie going to Iowa for that. He's there because he's thinking about running for president. And this was his first trip of the 2016 cycle to test those waters.
Was there a good press turnout? A lot of reporters?
There was as many press as actual Iowans at most of these events. There were more than 50 reporters who showed up for this event at a small restaurant in Marion, Iowa. So maybe 100, 150 actual Hawkeye State residents, and then the entire Washington and Iowa press corps.
But when I've been out there for the primaries, that's often the case. You go to these, particularly like for the caucuses, not the primary, but the caucuses, and you show up and there are more reporters than there are voters.
It's a very strange political meeting ritual, if you think about it, trying to fake this casual interaction in a restaurant, and yet it's all so contrived.
How was Christie received?
He was received very positively. Most people either hadn't really paid attention to his Bridgegate scandal or didn't really care about it. And he's very good at retail politics. So he went around the room, shook everyone's hand, had, funny, clever things to say to them, was very friendly, and I think he was very well received. He seemed like a celebrity. I've seen some of the other potential presidential candidates, Bobby Jindal, for example, Rick Santorum, go to New Hampshire and some of these other early states this cycle, and they've been treated fine, but he was treated like a celebrity. It was completely different. It was night and day.
I mean, I can't imagine two people more difference between two people dealing with a crowd like that than Chris Christie and Bobby Jindal.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, one would be in his element, namely Chris Christie, and Jindal, I'm sure, would just look awkward.
Yes.
And people would feel awkward about approaching him or whatever.
Even here on this show, right, where we talk about a lot of progressive candidates and progressive ideas, it is exciting to talk about Chris Christie. You know, we pull audio clips from a lot of these folks. Chris Christie audio clips, gold. Almost every time. Yeah. Bobby Jindal,
And what did he say about his intentions, Chris Christie?
Every time someone asked, and a lot of Iowans did ask him, not only are you running, but they pleaded, will you please run? We want to vote for you. And he said, I'm thinking about it. Mm-hmm. So what you would expect. But that's an important concession. Obviously, he's weighing it. So he's kind of at the Hillary Clinton stage of saying, this is something I'm considering. And he's taking the approach.
He's been pretty upfront about the fact that he is thinking about it, for sure.
And he's not going to decide until after the election in November because governors are running and he needs to focus on his job as RGA chair. So that's pretty consistently what he's saying now.
And did anybody ask him about the bridge?
Not that I heard. I did not hear every conversation that he was having, but I eavesdropped on as many as possible, and I didn't hear that come up. One person did ask him about the Hobby Lobby decision, and I thought that was interesting. They asked, did you support the Supreme Court's decision? He said, I do.
He said that he did, right? Now, he goes to New Hampshire next. Is that
He does
right?
At the very end of this month. It'll, I believe, be his first 2016 trip to New Hampshire as well. So this is definitely Christie 2.0 after the Bridgegate scandal. First, you saw him raise a bunch of money for the RGA. That was part of his rehabilitation. Now you see him going to these early primary states. So he must feel that he's on solid enough footing at this point to start inching into that arena.
Yeah, but so you didn't find that that Republicans sort of feel he's yesterday's news because of the bridge scandal?
No, one person put it to me this way. He comes with some baggage, but he has more of a message than any of the other potential candidates. That's what the Republicans there are kind of thinking. So at least he stands for something. I think what we were hearing before, there was this concern in the conventional wisdom that Christie would go to Iowa and be too brash for them, too New Jersey for them.
Yeah.
But actually they see him as someone who's really relatable and a normal guy. And so I think that makes up for a lot of what we saw with the Bridgegate scandal. Right. He's someone they can relate to.
Chris Christie, you've heard me say, I think he's the Republican candidate of the field that I see in 2016 that I would fear the most. 866-55-PRESS. What do you think? You've heard Rebecca Berg. She was there with him in Iowa. Now, you went from Iowa to Detroit.
Everyone's perfect vacation itinerary.
There it is. Right. Iowa and Detroit.
I feel so grateful.
Right.
It's wonderful.
So, with another rock star at the Netroots convention.
At the opposite side of the political spectrum. Elizabeth
Warren.
Yes.
And tell us about that. How was she received?
I had to check my calendar because I felt like I was in the midst of a 2016 presidential campaign. And it was still 2014, I confirmed. But it felt like she was running for president. And that wasn't necessarily her fault. It wasn't anything she was doing differently. But there's so much enthusiasm. And you know this. There's so much enthusiasm in the progressive community for her. And so some of her supporters were distributing Elizabeth Warren for President signs and hats. And after her speech at Netroots, people would encounter each other in the halls. And instead of saying hi or, how are you doing? How are you enjoying the conference? The question was, did you hear Elizabeth speak? What did you think? And everyone was very excited to talk about it and her ideas. And then she went and campaigned for Gary Peters and received a similar reception there.
Yeah. Now, but the very fact that Elizabeth Warren would agree to go to Netroots, I mean, she knows that that's going to ignite or add more fuel to the fire of the 2016 talk. She's got to know that.
Absolutely.
And she did it.
And
so come on, stop playing games. She's going to run, isn't she?
I think the question that I still have is she doing this? Is she trying to bring more attention to herself, to really bring more attention to the issues that she cares about, because she's very consistently talked about consumer protection, about inequality issues. And the more we pay attention to Elizabeth Warren, every article you read about her, you're reading about these issues and they're getting more attention. More Democrats are starting to speak about them because they see her popularity rising. So I wonder, on the one hand, could she just be trying to bring attention to these important issues, or is she running for president? It could be a combination of the two. And I think it would be hard for anyone not to be swayed by the kind of enthusiasm she is receiving.
I think she's great. I want her to run. She certainly did not go to Detroit to Netroots to help Hillary Clinton.
No, and it certainly didn't help Hillary Clinton. But the interesting thing that I found when I was speaking to people at Netroots, supporters of Elizabeth Warren, was that many of them were okay with Hillary Clinton as a candidate. Their big concern was, is she going to represent some of these important issues that Elizabeth Warren has been talking about and deliver on those?
Did Bernie Sanders appear at Netroots? I don't think he did,
no,
did he?
he didn't. I'm not sure why.
Why wasn't Bernie there?
Yeah,
he must have been invited.
You'd think.
Well,
I imagine he would have been.
Yeah.
Even Joe Biden was there.
I know. Were you there for Biden?
I wasn't. I was in Iowa that day for
Right. What'd you pick
history.
up about Biden's appearance? Were people talking about it? Were they?
People seemed fine with it. There wasn't that Elizabeth Warren level excitement. I think the bigger news was just that he came to Netroots at all.
Right. Yeah. No, for him that was a big statement too. The fact that
statement.
he right.
And I think if I were to choose who is more likely to run for president, Elizabeth Warren or Joe Biden, I would pick Joe Biden every time. I think he's
so you got
running.
it. Your comments, your questions on Elizabeth Warren. We've been running the Warren for president, right?
Yeah.
That's the website. Warren for number 4.
Ready for a Warren.
No, that's right. I'm sorry. I knew that wasn't right. Ready for Warren with the number 4 in it. .com. We've had a link up on our website. We want Elizabeth Warren to run and Bernie Sanders to run and Hillary Clinton to run. Rebecca Berg here with us from the Washington Examiner. Your questions, your comments about any of the above at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all of the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you know, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour, back to the international scene, hotspots of the world with Joe Cirincione from the Ploughshares Fund in the next half hour. Right now we're talking domestic politics, particularly two rock stars, Chris Christie and Elizabeth Warren, with Rebecca Berg, who's just off the campaign trail. Well, it's not a campaign yet with
Right.
both of them. But we only have about a minute left, Rebecca. I just want to mention what we were talking about during the break, that some people have said, and somebody on this show last week said, no, Elizabeth Warren should wait. Let Hillary have it this time, and Elizabeth will run down the road
Right, she
in the
can
future.
mature and,
Yeah.
you know, it'll be her time later. Well, what people don't realize is she is as old as Hillary Clinton. She's 65. So this is really her time to run.
They're really the same
There is no
age.
next time. They're really the same age. It's amazing that no one knows it. I was reading a piece about Dave Weigel spoke to some people in Detroit asking, how old is Elizabeth Warren? How old do you think she is? People thought she was 15 to 20 years younger than Hillary Clinton.
Well, I'll tell you, she's got a tremendous energy. When she gives a speech, you think she's 25, you know.
Right. She has more energy than I do.
All right. Hey, Rebecca, thanks so much for coming in today.
Thank you, Bill.
Great work. Back with Joe Cirincione. Take a look at Gaza and
This
Ukraine.
is the
with
Bill
Joe.
Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, Real answers, right now.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go. 33 minutes now after the hour on a Monday morning, July 21. We have a kind of a rule around the Bill Press Show that no matter how good they are, we don't have guests in more often than, maybe once a month, every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But we are violating our rule this morning because we could not get through this morning without Joe Cirincione, even though he was here last week from the Ploughshares Fund, because there's too damn much going on around the world, Joe, and it's not good news. Good to see you, though, this morning.
Thanks for having me back, Bill.
And before we get into these world crises, just a footnote on our last half hour, because you were also at the Netroots conference.
I was.
Your impression of Elizabeth Warren?
She electrified the crowd. There were, Elizabeth Warren for president's hats and banners and signs. There's no question that if those people had their choice, she would be the candidate.
She'd be the nominee of the party, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that she even agreed to show up at Netroots, she had a little bit to do with stirring that up. Right?
She did. That's exactly right. The vice president was there the day before, and he gave an okay speech, a little rambling, not his best effort. But he didn't invoke anywhere near the passion that Elizabeth Warren did. There was a pro-Hillary crowd. There was a ready for Hillary effort, and they had a party. I went and had a drink and listened to a little music. But it's clear that Elizabeth Warren is the heart and soul of the progressive movement.
Yeah, but it was important that Joe Biden show up, too,
Yeah.
I think. Okay, let's start with the Ukraine. I mean, there is no doubt world opinion has totally shifted.
Yes.
And people do see now Vladimir Putin as the one responsible, and Russia for the ones who provided this weapon and probably the training for it and for the separatists, right?
Yeah, there's at least two things going on. One is the horrific death toll itself. What happened. Almost 300 innocent people killed in this plane crash. And then very clear evidence, and more came out just over the weekend. Secretary Kerry released some of it. Clear that Russia provided the equipment, trained the troops, that this was a surface-to-air missile fired from rebel-held territory in Ukraine. Crystal clear. So that's bad enough that happens. But what is really starting to infuriate, particularly the European publics, and most of the citizens on this plane were Europeans, 192 Dutch, for example, is the refusal of the rebels to give the authorities access to the bodies. And they see these bodies being just hauled off and thrown into refrigeration trains, which has its own echoes in Europe. And so this has just infuriated the public and turned the otherwise sort of neutral Netherlands, for example, strongly against the Russians. And all of a sudden, you're seeing these governments that had been reluctant to take new sanctions now demanding new sanctions.
That's the thing that I find so fascinating about this is whatever internal war and internal conflict that was going on, it's been brought to the doorstep of so many different countries now.
Yeah.
And so while it used to be, some sanctions here from us, it seems to be countries unifying against this.
Right. It was just the day before the airliner was shot down that President Obama went on national television and announced new sanctions, unilateral sanctions, because he couldn't get the Europeans to go along. The next day, the airliner shot down, and you just see European opinion shifting.
They haven't done it yet. They've said, I think they're meeting tomorrow.
Yes.
And they're all talking, David Cameron and Angela Merkel and Francois Hollande. But,
all had a conference call yesterday on this, a phone call.
So tomorrow, I think it's important that they step up.
We'll see. And you understand their position. About a third of Europe's energy supplies come from Russian natural gas, and they're afraid that Russia will retaliate. So it's a real material basis to the hesitation.
So there's still no official inspection or investigation begun because the investigators, international investigators, are not able to get to the scene. I saw that they were able to open the doors of these boxcars or whatever and let people look in, but they wouldn't let them identify the bodies or count the bodies even. There are remains of bodies that still are out in the fields. I mean, it's just it feels like, the world is hopeless to do anything about it.
It feels like you're dealing with barbarians, and that's the feeling that you get. And whatever, sympathy the Ukrainian separatists might have had, remember there was a feeling in Europe that sort of admired Putin for taking strong action. Some Republicans in the United States admired Putin for making a decision and then executing it. Well, that's just gone.
Some people, others have made this, have looked back to when Russia shot down Korean Airlines 007.
Yes.
And Ronald Reagan was in the White House. That was sort of the turning point in the Cold War. That the world opinion just totally turned against Russia at that point. This could be a similar turning point, I think, against Putin.
I do believe so. I do, because it embodies the sort of the hard-line, ruthless action he's been trying to take, and has now isolated him. There is nobody coming to his defense. There is nobody. Even the far-right parties in Europe, which had, remember, just in the elections, had some pro-Putin sentiment, they're condemning this.
Now, the other hotspot, of course, in Gaza. Yesterday, the worst day yet. We thought this might be short-lived. It's dragging on. This was day 13. 13 Israeli soldiers killed, 60-some Palestinians killed, including women and children because of where the shells
yesterday.
Just yesterday, right? The total toll, I think, in Gaza now is
500.
around 500. And John Kerry on his way to Cairo to try to broker a ceasefire.
Well,
any end in sight?
No. It's said that the American public can't deal with more than two foreign policy crises at a time, and we're seeing that now. That the newspapers are split screen, these two crises, and it's the Gaza crisis that has now leaped to the fore because the casualty rate has now jumped. Israel has now killed more Palestinians in Gaza than Russia has killed Europeans in Ukraine. And you're also seeing a similar trend in world opinion. It's strongly anti-Israeli at this point. Whatever sympathy Israel enjoyed from world opinion because of the Hamas rocket attacks, which had terrorized Israelis but only killed a total of 2 civilians, is now gone as these death tolls mount. And you see stories of people going to the morgues to claim their relatives. Of the 500 killed, it's estimated that a third are children. It's very hard to defend that kind of conflict.
President Obama has called Prime Minister Netanyahu 2 days in a row, expressing his concern about the number of civilian victims in Palestine. What's Netanyahu's response?
Stay the course. And he has the support of the Israeli people. So Netanyahu was just on television today. The Israeli time is, ahead of ours, defending the course. And a great deal of the news in Israel is about the Israeli soldiers who have been killed, including 2 Americans who have died. Mm-hmm. My family lives in Israel, and I spoke to them about this, and this is a pro-Labor Party family, but even they reluctantly support the invasion. It's hard for Americans to understand sometimes how much Israelis feel themselves to be the victim. And these Hamas rocket attacks, even though they're wildly inaccurate and they haven't caused much damage, have terrorized a good part of the population. And they say no country can live like that. So even now, you see the Israeli public supporting this. I believe that will shift as the 2 death tolls rise. There comes a limit of how many innocent civilians you can kill, and there comes a limit into how many Israeli soldiers Israel public is willing to tolerate.
I don't think there are any white hats in this thing. Certainly, Hamas does not wear a white hat at all. Right?
They're still firing the rockets. They refused the ceasefire. They had a chance. They had a way out.
Exactly, they've refused to recognize Israel after all these years, and on and on. At the same time, you see, and again, this is the New York Times front page today. The lead photo above the fold is a doctor in an emergency room in Gaza, weeping and looking over the bodies of 4 children.
The stories are just horrific, and this photo, variations of this photo are being played out in world presses around.
Like the 4 kids killed on the beach last week.
That was just the beginning. That was before the ground invasion. Right. Now you can't actually count the number of individuals that have been killed. But the stories are piling out, and you see pictures of people fleeing the devastation. As they said today on NPR, which is also headlining this, there's no safe place in Gaza. So you have 1.2 million people being attacked north, south, east, west, up the entire strip.
And nowhere to flee. And at the same time, so here we have these 2 crises, Joe. In the Ukraine, critical situations, at least in the Ukraine, and the war in the Middle East. And back here at home, John McCain and Lindsey Graham can't resist making this a let's blame Barack Obama.
Well,
whatever happened to the day when this country faced an international crisis, people would band together behind the president and say, we're going to help resolve this.
Well, this is the great tragedy of American politics at this point, that even confronted with these very stark crises, you still see the political divide here, I believe fueled by the Republicans, who turn every issue into an attack on Barack Obama. So it's Ukraine, Israel, it's Obama's fault. So Obama's to blame. So you heard Lindsey Graham on Meet the Press yesterday saying that Obama tries to appear thoughtful, but it's just weakness. He calls the Secretary of State delusional. That Kerry is delusional. This is the secretary who's flying to Cairo to try to broker a ceasefire, to try to end the slaughter, and you have his political opponents attacking him.
And John Kerry, who negotiated a deal in Afghanistan to save the government of Afghanistan, and with this recount in the vote, and got both parties to agree, as you pointed out to us last week, right?
Right.
This is
forestalling a possible civil war that was brewing in Afghanistan. I mean, a really formidable national security, foreign policy victory gets no credit for it, just as attacked.
This is the Secretary of State who has brought Iran to the table to talk about dismantling its nuclear weapons program. Didn't get all the way there yet, but got a good part of the way, right?
We did. So just this weekend, the negotiators in Vienna agreed to extend the talks. They were due to end on Sunday. They're close to a deal, but there's still some very difficult issues, and neither side was ready to make the compromises yet. They have to retreat. They're going to take a few weeks off in August and come back to the table at the end of August and try to get a deal wrapped up this fall.
Yeah, but rather than any constructive comments or cooperation at all you get from Lindsey Graham and John McCain is blame Obama and attack.
If you have something to suggest now, what do you do now? Please make the suggestion.
Sure.
Please go meet with the president to have a discussion, but that's not what they're about.
Joe Cirincione here with us from the Ploughshares Fund, the ploughshares.org, Ploughshares shares.org. Boy, that'll give you a lot to talk about here. Let's get into it. 866-55-PRESS, whether it's Gaza or the Ukraine, the downing of the missile, the shocking behavior of the separatists here, or a little good news with the negotiations with Iran. We'll take your calls and continue with Joe when we come right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
11 minutes before the top of the hour. Hey, we're going to talk one of my favorite subjects, cars, at the top of the next hour. Tesla is coming out with a new kind of budget car. We'll see what the story on that is.
I want one.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Right now, we're talking foreign policy hotspots with particularly the Eastern Ukraine and Gaza with Joe Cirincione from the Ploughshares Fund. Joe, I want to come back to the Ukraine for just a second here. The question really is, I think, President Obama's facing and other people are asking is, so what can we do? I mean, Putin, despite his sort of peaceful words, in some cases, we have to resolve all of this and everything, he continues to send arms and money and military advisors to the eastern Ukraine. He's continuing to start. He sent them this, gave them this SA-11 missile system, sophisticated missile system. So we talked maybe about the sanctions. Is that enough? Can the UN do anything?
I think the sanctions actually are the answer. And you've seen, with just the sanctions that have been enacted so far, Putin retreat. So become a lot less aggressive in eastern Ukraine despite these continued arms shipments. And it's clear that he felt that he was losing the battle on this. I think intensified sanctions are the answer for this, and targeted sanctions at the elite who are buying, $1 million apartments in London and Paris, and you hit them where it matters. So I really do think that's, and it's not arms to the Ukrainians. You can do some of that. Ukraine does need help. It's mostly economic help that they need right now for their crippled economy. And you don't want to fan the flames of the conflict by flushing the Ukrainian army with advanced arms. In the long run, what you have to do is get European energy independence. You cannot tolerate a situation where Europe has 30% of its energy supply from Russia. If Russia's going to act like this, it's one thing to have that if Russia's going to be part of the European economy, part of the global security community, but not like this.
I saw word this morning that the Australian Prime Minister was contemplating not inviting Putin to the next meeting of the G20, which is, I think, this summer or next spring.
And that's the other kind of thing you can do, international ostracism. So you're beyond the pale. You're not recognized as a responsible world leader.
Which would really hurt Putin, it would seem to me, because he wants to be a player.
And hurt his image. I mean, one of the reasons he's doing all this is for domestic political gain, which up till now has worked. He's hugely popular in Russia. And you remember, just a year ago, there were mass demonstrations in Moscow against Putin. Now he enjoys 70% popularity, so you got to ding that. You got to cost him domestically, make him pay for this.
Or the G8 meeting, the next G8 meeting, wherever it is, just saying, hey, you're not invited. We don't want you. We don't want to be seen with you.
Yeah. Now, you do have to worry about blowback, both on energy supplies and, for example, on the Iran talks. So Russia has been cooperating on getting the deal with Iran, but they're starting to grumble about this, objected to the extension of the negotiations, for example. So this requires a skilled hand. It requires somebody, frankly, like John Kerry to manage this diplomatically.
And it requires someone with a steady hand and a calm demeanor like a Barack Obama.
It does. A time like this, you do not want a bunch of blowhards out there just throwing bombs at the problem.
Or a hothead like John McCain. I mean, God forbid. I keep thinking about how many wars we would be in, how many countries we would have bombed so far if McCain were president.
The alternative history is scary if John McCain had been elected.
Because his answer to everything is bomb, bomb, bomb.
Somebody made a list of countries John McCain would have bombed by now, and there was 7 or 8 on the list.
Jeez.
All right, Joe. Well, thank you so much for coming in again today. I'm not sure we're going to be able to go a whole week without talking to you again. Let's just hope that things improve well enough that we don't need Joe Cirincione back again. Because when you see him, you know it's bad news.
It's bad news. The bat sign has gone up.
All right. Thanks, Joe. We'll be back. I'll be back to tell you what the president's up to today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, how about it? You like those first 2 hours? Well, we got another one coming up, and those of you watching on Free Speech TV, we're going to lose you. Too bad. Hate when that happens, but you have an alternative. We invite you to join us on our video stream, TawkrTV, TawkrTV. You get there by going to youtube.com/TawkrTV. And our third hour will be joined by Melanie Batenchuk with the Washington Automotive Press Association to talk about the new Tesla and other new cars on the market. And Kate Nocera from Buzzfeed will be here as well. Exciting third hour coming up. Stay with us on TawkrTV.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick.
I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime.
I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
This is the Bill Press Show.
President Obama with a busy day indeed at the White House today. Gets a daily briefing this morning at 9:30, about an hour earlier than he normally does. At 10:15, he'll be signing an executive order banning discrimination against employees for federal contractors based on their sexual orientation. Then he goes off campus to do a town hall on the My Brother's Keeper initiative at the Walter Jones Education Campus here in Washington, D.C. And this afternoon, in the East Room of the White House, he'll be awarding the Medal of Honor to Ryan W. Pitts from the U.S. Army. We have our briefing today with Josh Ernest at 1 o'clock, and we'll talk cars, a new Tesla with Melanie Batenchuk from the Washington Automotive Press Association.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. Truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
broadcasting around the nation on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Elizabeth Warren knocks him dead at Netroots on Friday. So is she going to run? That question being asked more than ever after her big reception at Netroots in Detroit on Friday. Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Monday, July 21. Good to see you today, and thank you for joining us here on the Bill Press Show. We are live in our nation's capital on Capitol Hill, our studio on Capitol Hill, and coming out to you coast to coast all across this great land of ours on your local Progressive Talk radio station, and worldwide all around the globe on our video stream at youtube.com/Bill. Nope, I'm sorry. The video stream is youtube.com/TawkrTV, TawkrTV. That's the problem. We're on so many platforms. It's hard to keep them straight. And don't forget, if you're not lucky enough to have a Progressive Talk radio station in your town, your community, your option is to download the app TuneIn app, and there you'll find us on the Progressive Voices channel. Our whole team here in place this Monday morning. They survived the weekend, ready to go for another week. Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy.
Hey, good morning.
Alicia Cruz standing by to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding has us looking good on the video cam, our videographer. And we're going to talk one of my favorite subjects as a former, the son of a gas station owner and pumped gas from the time I could walk to the time I went off to college. Cars. Melanie Batenchuk is the president of the Washington Automotive Press Association right here in our nation's capital. Melanie, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in today. You drove in some fancy car this morning?
I drove in a Hyundai Accent, so
all right.
A compact car.
A little compact, very good for negotiating the nation's capital streets. Yeah.
It is very good for parking, too.
yeah, exactly. So we'll have a lot of fun with that and get your calls and your comments on all the latest models. Meanwhile, I just on the political front, we talked the last hour a little bit about Chris Christie out in Iowa, Elizabeth Warren at the Netroots conference in Detroit, and meanwhile, there's that other shrill voice in American politics who just won't go away. We'll just play the clip. Guess who this is?
There's only one remedy for a president who commits high crimes and misdemeanors, and it's impeachment. It's the I word.
Yeah, Sarah Palin, she just won't go away. She's just beating that drum, the impeachment drum, the I word. High crimes and misdemeanors. No, she still doesn't identify exactly which high crime or misdemeanor has.
Yeah, there is that.
There is that, right? Yeah. Oh, man. So that's all right. She's not going anywhere, so don't worry about it. So, Melanie, we're going to talk cars with Melanie here at the top of the hour, and then at the half, Kate Nocera from Buzzfeed will join us to take a look at what we might expect from the House and the Senate when they come back in session today. But first,
this
Peter with the big stories of the day.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. Martin de Jong might be the luckiest man in the world. Really? He is a cyclist from the Netherlands. He was originally booked to be on Malaysian Flight 370, the one that went missing, and he changed his flight on a completely separate incident. He was supposed to be on Malaysian Flight 17, which was shot down.
Oh, man.
He also changed that flight.
No.
He was supposed to be on both of the planes from Malaysian Airlines. He did not get on either plane, so he is alive today. He put out a statement on his website. He's a well-known, in those circles, cyclist. And people were wondering what the deal was. He said, yeah, I was booked on both, and I changed them both just because I can't handle my schedule very well. And that saved his life.
Apparently he can.
Twice.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Right? Is that not just the creepiest thing?
That's chilling.
I'll tell you one thing. If I were him, I would never book another flight.
He's a bike rider. Ride your bike everywhere now. Yeah. you know?
I mean, he cheated death twice. Yeah. I would not.
Third time.
No.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take a chance on the third time.
Yeah.
I also would not get on any plane he's booked on.
Yeah, exactly. There's a big business conference in Paraguay, so the second richest man in the world, Carlos Slim, decided to weigh in on what he thinks provides makes the best workers. He says we should only be working 3 days a week.
I like this man.
4-day weekends. Says, but here's the caveat. He says that he thinks that people should be working longer, that you don't start retiring in your 50s or your 60s. You should work longer. You just work a little bit less throughout your life.
If I were as wealthy as he was, I wouldn't be working any days
Pretty
a week.
easy to say that when you're the second richest man in the world.
It is. When you've got that much money, it's pretty easy to say, well, we should only work 3 days a week.
But he says, if you have more time off, it'll make you a happier, more productive worker. On the 3 days that you're working, you'll put in more than the 5 days that we're used to. I can get behind that.
Me too.
I'll work until I'm 70.
Yeah, we'll talk to Carlos.
My buddy Carlos. And we say farewell to actor James Garner, who passed away over the weekend of natural causes at the age of 86. Got his start in entertainment playing Brett Maverick on the TV show Maverick.
Still mainly known for Maverick, I think.
And the Rockford Files. He was introduced to a whole new generation several years after Maverick debuted. He was born James Scott Bumgardner in Norman, Oklahoma. He is a veteran was a veteran of the Korean War before he got into acting. Yeah. Farewell, James Garner.
And dropped the bum once he got his first movie star role.
That's right.
Yeah,
smart move.
James Garner. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed. So, Melanie, the biggest news that I've seen on the car front lately is Tesla shocking everybody, coming out saying, and Tesla's a beautiful, beautiful car, and I think a great car, and has been very successful, but a little expense on the expensive side, right? The regular Tesla is
$70K and up, so $70,000 and up for the Model S.
Yeah, but for $70, you don't even get seats in the car, right? I mean,
you do, and it comes with a beautifully packaged interior and great design. And they're selling pretty well. I think the last month they were pretty on target with the Chevy Volt. So,
but now they're going to come out with a
Model 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So Elon Musk announced that they're going to come out with their third model, the Model 3. So now they'll have a Model S, a Model X, which is their crossover, and now the Model 3. And the rumor was they were supposed to call it the Model E, and I'll let you put those letters together. But Ford actually had a patent on that name, so Model 3 it is.
Model 3, and this one is bargain price?
Yes, it's supposed to be about 20% smaller in scale than the Model S, so still a sedan, and they're really targeting it right at the BMW 3 Series, which is a regular internal combustion car. So it's very interesting, the positioning that they want to place an electric vehicle in against, the Mercedes C-Class, the 3 Series, and not necessarily against the other EVs on the market right now.
But this is what I've seen, 35K?
That's what they're hoping for. They're hoping to target it right at 35K, which would be in line with the other vehicles' prices, and also in line with the competition on the EV side. It'd probably come in a little bit lower than even the Nissan Leaf, which would be a smaller vehicle than the D3.
It's surprising to me to see like a brand new manufacturer hit the scene and do as well as Tesla has. Right now, and how are they still selling? Refusing to go through dealers, they still sell directly to consumers?
Right. And there was some news a couple weeks ago about them hoping the White House would help them out and make it, on a national level legal for them to do that. But the White House decided to kind of stay out of that argument. So it's happening state by state.
And Congress hasn't done anything either, right?
No.
Is there a law that to sell cars you have to go through a dealer?
Yes, the dealers and manufacturers have franchise agreements, which makes it so that the manufacturers cannot sell directly to consumers. That's why they have the dealer network.
Right. Except that can a state make an exception to that? You say Tesla's going state by state.
Yes,
so.
The states can decide and make certain determinations that Tesla can either legally do that or they cannot. So that's what's happening around the country. And some of it has been pretty heated debate. But I think that, consumers are wanting it. So the courts are kind of paying attention to that.
Yeah. Why should what's the reasoning behind the law that, I mean, dealers do a great job, and I've always bought a car through a dealer, but a lot of people sell their cars just on,
private owner,
right, or
right,
on Craigslist or something.
I think that's the
so. Why should you
difference.
have to go through? Why should a manufacturer have to go through a dealer?
Well, it's beneficial for the manufacturers as well because they have a whole network who's dealing directly with the consumer. The manufacturer, their role is to build the car and sell it to the dealers who can then work with the consumers to get them in the vehicle. They're dealing with lending and all that, and many of the manufacturers have their own captive finance arms to help finance the vehicles that are being sold to consumers. But really, I think it's just, this is how it started many years ago, and the relationships have grown over time, and the dealer networks have obviously grown with that.
Elon Musk did a really cool thing not so long ago where he opened up the plans, the blueprints of the Tesla. What's been the feedback from other car manufacturers in terms of moving this whole electric car thing forward in that way?
So far, Musk said that there hasn't been a whole lot of response to the opening of their patents, and he's basically said that he wouldn't take action on patents if other manufacturers decided to use Tesla's technology to build and kind of further innovate electric vehicles.
Yeah. Well, so what's the purpose of putting the blueprints up? What, so you can make your own in your garage or something?
Yeah, I mean, that's the real thing. I mean, the way that he positions it is he wants everybody to try and work on building the next generation of electric car, right? To make this car, an electric car, a reality that anybody could buy, not just someone who can afford to spend 45, 50 grand on a car.
So what is the big picture about green cars now? I mean, are they really starting to take off?
You could say that.
Electric car sales have been pretty slow, haven't they?
Car sales are picking up. Overall, the industry car sales are at all-time high since 2006. So we're really coming out of the, Great Recession and a very strong economy for car buyers.
14 million, 15?
Yeah, we're at over 14 million. And we're projected, I believe, this year to be in the high 16s for the year. So,
so overall, car sales are really booming.
Yes.
Right? And green car sales?
Well, you have to look at it, as part of the overall market. Green car sales are still hybrids are about 3% of the market. EVs and plug-in electric vehicles are about 0.5% of the entire market.
Yeah.
So it's still a very small picture when you're looking at the grand scale of things. But if you compare it to the last 3 years, there are 50 hybrid models out on the market today, 17 electric vehicles and plug-in electric vehicles that consumers can choose from. So we're seeing this continual path of innovation and trying to find what that solution to helping us wean off of our reliance on gasoline. Hydrogen cars are being introduced now, mostly in Southern California because they have the infrastructure for it. But there's a lot of news on Hyundai's new fuel cell Tucson. It's a SUV. Apparently it can go about 450 miles on one tank of hydrogen. So they're wondering now, well, is hydrogen the way of the future? So I think what Musk is trying to do is say, hey, listen, I don't want to stifle innovation by, enacting all of these patent infringement cases. So as long as you have good intentions in using the patents and the plans that Tesla has for these technologies, I'm happy for others to innovate with it.
But if all the electric cars, either EV or plug-ins, only half a percentage, half of 1%.
Yes.
It's a long way to go, baby.
It's a long way to go.
Long way to go.
And what's it going to take? Is it that they're too expensive, or that their range is not far enough, or people just don't trust them, or?
The evil words of range anxiety still exist and still plague car buyers. So most of the sales are focused on extended range vehicles or gas electric hybrids like the Volt. BMW has an i3 that has a range extended version to help you go farther. But I think that just like all technology, as the battery technology advances, and this is part of Tesla's plan with the Model 3, they're looking to build a gigafactory battery plant somewhere in the U.S. that would help them by 2017 when this car would come out. Battery would be smaller yet more powerful. So, then they can give you a $35,000 car. Mm-hmm. So as technology becomes more affordable, I think that, the cars will become more affordable and they'll be wider adopted.
That's the big thing with the Tesla, right, is that the batteries are just gigantic. They're just these huge batteries that they have to put on these cars. And their struggle has been to make something that's compact that, will also still give you the battery life that you need to actually drive somewhere.
Yeah. So what's going on? We've been complaining about the dependence on fossil fuels and the gas-guzzling cars for so long. Now there are all these alternatives out there. Would you say 50 or 40 hybrids available?
50 models of hybrids out there.
So why aren't we buying them? And electric cars are here. Why aren't we buying them? Melanie Batenchuk is here from the Washington Automotive Press Association. We'll be glad to take your calls. Let you cars and drivers out there weigh in at 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look! Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, we're talking new cars, particularly new hybrids, new EVs, new electronic vehicles, with Melanie Batenchuk, who is president of the Washington Automotive Press Association. And you can find out more about their good work and the line of cars at their website, Wash Auto Press. I like that, washautopress.org. Melanie, a quick call here from Randall up in Buffalo, New York. Hey, Randall, what's up?
Hey, everybody. Hi, Bill. Long time no talk. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
It's impossible for millions of people in this country to have an electric car. So I don't really know what to do. Now, a hybrid is great. I can't wait till I have enough money to buy a hybrid, but I live downtown. All of my family and in-laws have houses in this city, but they don't have driveways, so they park in various places on the street.
Yeah.
My brother lives in San Francisco, for example. It's impossible to have a charging station for all of us.
Yeah. Brandon, just in the interest of time, let me get a response from Melanie. I'd say the same thing because I live right here on Capitol Hill, in a townhouse on Capitol Hill. So.
Right, that's always been a big concern, and we're seeing a lot more infrastructure being built kind of in suburbia, which was unexpected because EVs were positioned as city cars.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have a garage or a driveway, sometimes having your own charging station is not realistic. But infrastructure is always going to be a big player in the success of EVs and wide adoption of them. And they're building networks across the nation. There are 20,000 charging stations across the country today. So they're building corridors along I-5 in Oregon, California, on the West Coast. They're building them over here on I-95 corridor going from DC up north. So we are seeing a lot more charging availability at public places where you would normally take a pit stop on a road trip.
Yep, that's what it's going to take. Hey, Melanie, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years...
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live,
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go at 33 minutes after the hour on a Monday morning, July 21. It is The Bill Press Show coming to you live from our nation's capital and brought to you today by the American Association of Machinists, the good men and women of the Machinists Union under President Tom Buffenbarger, sharpening America's edge on the global economy, you bet. And you find out more about their good work at goiam.org. Time is running out on the Congress. Time to get anything done this year because they go away in August and basically don't come back. So we got 2 more weeks to go. They come back in session today. Can we expect any action at all on any front? Joining us in studio right now to talk about these issues as she covers the Congress for Buzzfeed, the great congressional reporter, Kate Nocera.
Bill, I have some bad news.
Wait a minute.
I hate to break.
Wait, where is she?
I'm sorry. We had Kate's actually not in studio today. I'm sorry.
What?
Yeah, I should have told you earlier.
I just looked up and saw this empty chair.
I know she was supposed to be here, but she's not in studio. I'm sorry. I totally should have mentioned this. It's my fault.
Well, is she on the phone at least?
Lord, I hope so.
God, I don't know.
Here.
Oh, hi, Kate.
Oh, Kate. Oh, there she is. Oh, I got it. I see. Hey, Kate, I want to tell you about a new invention that they just came out with.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they're called alarms.
Oh my God.
And you set them, and the alarm goes off, and you get up on time. And good morning, Kate. How are you?
It's really rare. This really never happens to me.
Oh. So it would only happen when you're booked on the Bill Press Show.
I get this one pass, I think.
Oh, you did.
She's giving herself a pass.
You're giving yourself a pass.
Fair.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Fair.
Well, good to hear your voice at any rate. And thank you for getting up early for us this morning. Not early. Now, I want to ask you about, I don't know whether you had a chance, probably not, to see... In the Washington Post this morning, I didn't realize this, but the lead story on page 3 is that one of the reasons there's not more happening in the Senate is because of this personal animosity between Harry Reid and Mitch McConnell. And they hate each other so much that they each try to prevent the other from getting anything done. And all the rest of the Senate are sort of caught in the crossfire here. Have you observed that?
I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, it's fair to say that the two of them don't have, there's no love lost in between them. And you can see basically every single day when stuff happens or does not happen, the two sides, the two press secretaries fight it out on Twitter over whose fault it is.
Wow, yeah. You know,
so it's not doing a lot for our country.
No, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse quoted from Rhode Island quoted as saying, "It's pretty bad, and I don't think there's any way to fix it." I mean, things are bad enough now, but when these two particular leaders don't get along, it makes it even worse, I guess. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there is anything that can be done, and obviously this is I was just thinking as you were introing, will Congress do anything? We have 2 weeks left. I feel like this is all we talk about, Bill. Every time I'm on your show, it's like,
right.
nope,
I know.
They're probably not going to do it. No, they're not going to get it together, and I don't really see, I mean, there's a huge amount of pressure on them right now to get some money to go to the border. I think they actually do need to do something on that front in the next 2 weeks, but we'll see what exactly that looks like.
Well, I remember, how many times have you been in, and we've talked about that immigration, whether any possibility. Now we've given up on the comprehensive immigration reform, and the focus is on this one request for the $3.7 billion, or at least some amount of money, right? To the border for the purpose of speeding up the process to deal with this flood of children who've come across the border. Do you think on that one issue, both sides will see the need to act?
You would think. I mean, I think everyone sees a need to act. It's just that the parties are really split over how quickly the kids need to get back, what they should do with this 2008 law, which is essentially allowing a lot of the children to stay longer than folks would like them to stay. Democrats have been very forceful in the last week or so, saying we're absolutely not changing that law. It was there for a reason. Let's be humane about this. Let's give these kids their day in court if they want to plead for amnesty. Obviously, they're coming from a pretty horrible situation, and the amount of money as well is also under dispute. You'll be shocked to hear that.
Yeah, right. I thought I was interested to see that this Friday, the White House is sort of upping the ante here a little bit. They've invited, and they're coming, the presidents of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. All three are coming to the White House on Friday to discuss this issue with President Obama. That adds a little pressure to the whole situation.
It adds pressure to the situation, and I think that I think there is in fact a cliff on this one. I hate to bring back a cliff kind of situation, but I think they're going to run out of money basically in mid-August. So some money has to go there, and guys from Texas, senators from border states, members from border towns are going to find it totally unacceptable if there's not enough money to actually take care of these kids or, treat them, give them shots.
Right.
I mean, the consequences of kind of not doing that are far worse than passing a bill to give them some money.
It's interesting to me because, there's sort of two sides maybe to every issue. There's the right thing to do, and then there's the politically smart thing to do. And I think on this issue, the right thing to do, and for both parties, the political smart thing to do, is to provide some money to ease this current crisis at the border, because we are talking with children. We'll see how that plays out. But I also, you mentioned border states. Border State Rick Perry has his own ideas about how to deal with the situation. He is calling up the Texas National Guard that was announced over the weekend. But you've been writing recently about Perry's attempt at a comeback. How's it being received in his party?
In his party or in his state? Because, I mean, it's different. Yeah. Obviously, it's different up here.
Both. Right.
On the Hill. I don't think that, the people up here who don't spend a lot of time around Rick Perry necessarily go, oh, well, this is going to change everything, and now he's super smart and great. I mean, I think that they sort of see it as, obviously, there's some posturing going on, but there are folks I've talked to in Texas who just think that he is the best thing since sliced bread, and that he's doing everything, a governor should be doing in this kind of situation. It's a little difficult, though, say, oh, I'm acting so serious around the border, and then the next day he tweets out a picture of himself with, big guns on the Rio Grande and with Sean Hannity, so it's kind of, there are a couple of things happening for Rick Perry there. He wants to appear tough, and he also knows that, Ted Cruz is out there going even further than everyone would like to go. I think than even most Republicans would like to go, saying that they should end the Deferred Action Program.
And there's no doubt that Rick Perry sees himself as that he can put the embarrassment of 2012 behind him and come back as a new man and be taken seriously in 2016.
That's all he wants. I mean, he is ready to do that. He has acted like everyone I spoke to. No one was like, "Oh, he's like thinking about maybe running for president." No. He is running. He's running for president.
Yeah,
that is what he wants to do. He is getting everything in place to do that.
Now, the other story of yours that caught our attention recently is the David Wu sightings in the Congress. I thought this guy was disgraced and tossed out of Congress.
You would think so, but he was tossed out of Congress. But there are rules that allow former members, basically, unless you're a lobbyist, and even then, it's a little iffy, to come back, and you can go on the floor and you can see all your old friends. I mean, it's been. This is not just like over the last month. This has been over the last several years that he's been up, and it's one of sort of DC's greatest mysteries. Everyone going, oh, what did David Wu's here? What is David Wu doing here? Mm-hmm. He was giving interviews in front of the Supreme Court 2 years ago. He went to the State of the Union last year. So it's just been a mystery that I wanted to unravel.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was, as I recall, wasn't he accused of either sexual assault or improper advances toward a teenager, and then his picture was taken in some Disney outfit or something, as I recall.
Right.
Yeah.
There were a couple of things that happened. The first thing, the most serious thing that happened was it was an unwanted sexual encounter. Was how it was described with the 18-year-old daughter of some of his good friends. So that was the main kind of, all right, David, you got to leave Congress now. And then he actually never denied that something happened. He just said that it was consensual and charges weren't filed. But it was that was the straw that when Pelosi was like, you got to go. But in the years prior to that, he had been suffering from some pretty serious bouts of depression, acting very strangely. His staff staged an intervention, and then at one point, all of them received these emails, and they were pictures of him in a tiger costume.
That was it. Yeah, the tiger
on a bed. Yeah, and they were all signed by his children. They were from his email address, but they were signed by his kids. But it was unclear for a long time whether it was him who had sent them and signed on behalf of. It was all very strange. Wow. So there was a strange couple years.
Yeah,
but he seems to not really be taking that in as a reason why he shouldn't come back to the Hill.
Yeah, just seems to me that I'm sure the people that fellow Democrats around the Hill are not happy to see him show up.
The interactions. I mean, there are a few people that are still friends with him, but for the most part, people see him and are like, "Oh, hey, buddy," and kind of.
Yeah, gotta run. Good to see you, boy. I'm late.
Hey, go home.
Yeah.
Get out of town. Indeed. All right. Well, Kate, by phone or in person, it's great to talk to you, and we look forward to seeing you again in studio again soon. Thank you. All right.
Next time in studio. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
All right. From BuzzFeed, BuzzFeed.com, Kate Nocera.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
she's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
11 minutes now before the top of the hour. And, of course, the big story of the day continues to be world shock and outrage. Well, two big stories of the day. World shock and outrage at what's going on in Gaza. And world shock and the fact that there's no end to the fighting. And John Kerry on his way to Cairo hopefully will be able to bring both sides to agree this time to a ceasefire. Israel did the last time, Hamas did not. And shock and outrage at what's happening in eastern Ukraine as well, with the rebels there. I mean, not only shooting down, which we're sure that they did. Come on, let's just stop playing games. Shooting down that Malaysian Airlines plane and killing 298 innocent civilians who had nothing to do with the conflict in the eastern Ukraine, but also the shock and outrage at the way they have just refused to allow any international inspectors in to begin an investigation in what happened to the plane, the way they refused access to the field and the removal of the bodies for up to 72 hours. And then once they finally did so, the way they sent a bunch of drunken people in there throwing these bodies on trucks and now loading them into railroad cars, which again has another whole meaning when it comes to Europe. It just goes on and on and on, all fingers pointing at Vladimir Putin. President Obama, I was there in the White House on Friday in the briefing room when he came in and talked about the dimensions and the horror of this tragedy.
Nearly 300 innocent lives were taken. Men, women, children, infants who had nothing to do with the crisis in Ukraine. Their deaths are an outrage of unspeakable proportions.
An outrage of unspeakable proportions. Well said, and the president pointed out we've been able to trace from the explosion on the plane and the missile that hit it, to trace that missile the trajectory right back to one of these SA-11 very sophisticated anti-aircraft missile systems, which we now know was given to the separatists by Russia a week or so ago. The Russian military certainly trained separatists on how to use this. Some of them might have even been there with the separatists when they did. The president saying very clearly the separatists, the rebels, could not have gotten this equipment or used it on their own.
There are only certain types of anti-aircraft missiles that can reach up 30,000 feet and shoot down a passenger jet. We have increasing confidence that it came from areas controlled by the separatists.
And John Kerry yesterday on all 5 of the Sunday shows pointing out we've got the evidence now that makes it very clear this was an evil action taken by the separatists, accidentally or not. And then Kerry talking about the way they've handled the bodies.
Drunken separatists are stacking bodies into the back of trucks, removing materials from the site.
And who's responsible? It is Russia, and it is Vladimir Putin, Kerry says, no doubt about it.
Russia has armed the separatists. Russia has supported the separatists. Russia has trained the separatists. Russia continues to refuse to call publicly for the separatists to engage in behavior that would lend itself to a resolution of this issue.
And we now know that the Chancellor of Germany, President of France, and the Prime Minister of the UK had a conference call yesterday. They will meet on Tuesday to decide whether or not they are ready to slap join the United States in slapping strong sanctions on Russia. Maybe finally they will act, and Vladimir Putin will call off the dogs in eastern Ukraine. I'll be back with today's parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, Congress comes back to town today, and you can expect, once again, no action on immigration for one reason, because John Boehner, captive of the Tea Party Republicans, refuses to even allow a debate on the issue. Someday this is going to come back and bite them in the ass, Republicans, I mean. For me, it's like watching an old movie, because 20 years ago in California, the Latino community wanted nothing to do with politics, wouldn't register to vote, wouldn't come out to vote. And then came 1994. I was Democratic state chair at the time, and Pete Wilson, Republican governor, endorsed Proposition 187, an anti-immigrant initiative, and he woke up the sleeping giant. Millions of Latinos came out and registered as Democrats, and not one Republican has carried California as a presidential candidate ever since. Now the same thing is happening today here in Washington. Republicans didn't learn anything in 1994. They're still waging war on immigrants. That may be good for Democrats, but it's bad for the country. Hey, folks, have a great Monday. I'll see you right back here again tomorrow morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.